Welcome back, guys. It's the third match, our third quarterfinal of the day here at the World Championships BlizzCon 2016. I'm Nathan, that's Aaron Zamora, joined by James Firebat Kostasich. And Firebat, the matches so far have been on fire. But these two, I've been looking forward to him play all day. che0nsu had played out of his mind in the opening week. Cydonia, I think he's got some stuff he wants to prove here as well.
Sure, I mean, he made it out of the group of death and kind of made a huge name for himself by doing so. He defeated Handsome Guy, one of the favorites to win the tournament, not once, but twice. So it's huge players clashing together. And one of the interesting things, you know, Cydonia defeated Handsome Guy twice, and che0nsu is a big fan of Handsome Guy. So he might be looking to try and take some revenge here. It might be a personal battle.
I definitely can see that. Something that's really big to note about that is you mentioned it was the group of death. That was largely not because of Cydonia. It was because of Tice and because of Handsome Guy being in that group. Of course, with Tice being one of the most consistent players, with Handsome Guy winning multiple championships this year. But Cydonia proved himself in that one. Those were not close matches that he had versus Handsome Guy. Those were very decisive matches. And now coming into this one, all the pressure's on. Everyone's watching. This is where the big bucks are on the line. If he can put together a strong performance here today, I think Cydonia is sending the biggest statement he possibly could.
Couldn't agree with you more. It is a huge step day one. You really want to get a really positive result and try and carry that momentum through to that trophy.
Yep, plus the North American pride.
Yeah.
He's got, you know, we look at last year, 2015, Hot Form was from Canada as well. And he made it all the way to the BlizzCon finals. So Cydonia potentially be able to step that up and bring home a championship to Canada, that would just be such an incredible accomplishment.
Yeah, they've really been so close so many times. They've been, you know, the America's champion before in 2015 with Purple. And as you said, the finals, the grand finals before with Hot Form, but they just haven't been able to grasp the trophy yet.
So we're getting into game number one. It is a Warrior mirror match, but not quite mirrored in cards. These are two very different builds these guys have brought, where che0nsu's playing the Dragon Warrior build, really wants to get on the ground running and try to punish any stumbles from the opponent.
Typically speaking, the Dragon Warrior can struggle against the Control Warrior just because the Control Warrior has so much armor gain, it has so much removal. But the really big piece, the key to this whole matchup a lot of times, is being able to remove the initial threats. And the best way to do that is with the Fiery Wax, and Cydonia doesn't have it yet, so he could be off to a little bit of a rocky start. And a lot of times the Dragon Warrior can punish some late stabilization with their top-end threats of Ragnaros and Gromash.
Yeah, strong finishers from this deck. I mean, that's kind of the game plan from the get-go, is just have a strong turn every turn.
The best minion on stat every turn. What could go wrong?
It is not a subtle game plan by any means. It is play a minion and start attacking. And you know, that can lead to some consistency issues as well. You know, looking at che0nsu's hand right now, this Alexstrasza champion is not active. This is a problem. This is where he needs to get this 3/3 charge and start delivering damage.
Now, is it even worth it to play it then, since it's not active? A lot of times you could honestly just consider maybe the Frothing Berserker here. You have to kind of give up your coin, but it's a lot more durable of a minion, and you're guaranteeing, or at least hoping, that you can activate the Alexstrasza champion a little bit later on down the line.
And these are the exact situations that I wanted to see che0nsu in. Not necessarily that I want to see him have some tough spots, but his technical play has been so good that in spots like this, he's gonna figure out why he's doing the play he's doing. It's not a matter of just playing the card that's in the hand that's the best. He's trying to craft the game plan given the situation.
All right, and he's going with the War Axe there, trying to craft a game plan of maybe being able to develop the Frothing Berserker and remove an opponent's minion, try and get that buff and...
Thinking an Acolyte of Pain ahead of time.
Sure.
Drop Alexstrasza champion and Acolyte of Pain. Suddenly that Frothing Berserker may not come down. Unlock that 3 damage later on. One turn off. One turn off.
Is it worth playing off curve like that? You could develop 2 minions this turn, which helps you play around Warrior's removal. Weapons can only remove 1 thing a turn, so che0nsu could potentially, you know, play the Alexstrasza's champion and Blood to Ichor his own Alexstrasza's champion to have a more resilient board by going a little bit wider on it, devaluing the Fiery Wax from Cydonia.
Yeah, Blood to Ichor is not a very strong card in this matchup.
And you have 2 of them in your hand already. One for the execute, and then one for just making a 2/2. So I kind of like it, and I think the Frothing is a little bit more susceptible to the removal from Cydonia, but at the same time, if it isn't removed, it's a lot stronger of a minion presence because it threatens to grow.
Yeah, this still would stay alive through any weapons available.
Sure.
Cydonia at this point. Really the only thing this dies to is either an execute play, a double slam,
Shield slam.
Yeah, shields, something in that vein. I mean, there's not like a blood to Ichor Bash that he's got to worry about this turn. Like a revenge play, maybe. There's some very off-the-wall things that Cydonia could have, but overall, the Frothing Berserker is just kind of an annoying threat to Cydonia.
Definitely is. You know, you always hate having to leave that Frothing Berserker up, so I think it's might actually warrant a shield slam, and you think it's crazy having to shield slam a 3-drop, but that's just the power that Frothing Berserker has. If you leave that guy on the board, you open up the ability for che0nsu just to play reactively to your minion development while buffing the minion that he has on board.
It's weird to say, but it is a large piece of the Dragon Warrior's pressure, the fact that this card can be a win condition at 3 mana. And
Cydonia is going to take a risk developing into it. He wants to get more value out of his shield slam. He doesn't want to have to kill a 3-drop. And that's reasonable. Shield Slam's a card that's oftentimes worth a lot more than that, but che0nsu can really punish this. This is exactly what he wanted to have happen.
Yeah, not only with the Alex Strauss' champion being able to trade over the body left behind from this Infestator and over the front half of it, but now the option for the Blackwing Corruptor as well. I mean, this is a great opener for che0nsu. Just 2 cards completely changing the context of his hand.
He's going to be able to push through 4 face damage here. Not enough to, you know, deactivate the shield slam from Cydonia, but enough to definitely turn up the heat a little bit, be kind of annoying.
Cydonia, that draw is, that is definitely a tech choice meant for very troublesome minions that your opponent invests a lot of the game into. Thinking like a Stealth Gadgetzan Auctioneer, or handling a Sylvanas in a pinch spot. It's not very good at handling 3-mana 4/4s.
No, oftentimes not. Sometimes turns them into squirrels and it's great, but that's not why you put that tech card in your deck.
This is a tough spot for Cydonia. His options are very limited.
Yeah, I really favor the shield slam, and the reason why I like the shield slam in this situation is because he doesn't have any armor gain in his hand currently, and he's already used one of his 2 shield blocks in his deck, which makes it less likely for him to find armor gain in the upcoming turns. So just being able to guarantee that you're going to get some value out of it, I think is very strong.
It's definitely where he's headed with this.
The other option, you could potentially try and bait a Brawl. Hope che0nsu extends a little bit more into the field, and then you can get a Brawl off. But when they extend with a Frothing Berserker, they do a lot of damage.
Yes, and not only that, but like as you mentioned, there's no armor gain in his hand. So if he foregoes the shield slam right now, he may be foregoing some Brawl value, but he'd be taking more damage. He'd be risking stranding the shield slam in his hand. I think being in the line of looking to maybe Sylvanas into a Brawl in the next couple of turns and try to conserve some of that life, much stronger.
Yeah. And che0nsu has great minions for turn 6 and 7, but nothing really too solid going on here. He still has the ability to Ichor one of his own minions to play just a 1-mana 2/2, which is always kind of, you know, it's okay in these aggressive decks, but oftentimes not the best and most ideal case for the card.
Yeah, and at this point too, che0nsu's got to start constructing what he feels like Cydonia's hand is at this point. He's seen very little action. It's been Infestator, shield block, and shield slam.
Yeah, so you know there's heavy things in the hand. You can start making a read on potentially more of the top-end cards in the Cydonia Warrior decks, like Grom, Gorehowl, Sylvanas, Rag, Karen. All of these random top-end cards are something you got to think about, and they're starting to be able to be unlocked at this moment.
This is another big turn for Cydonia.
What now?
I mean, I imagine it's got to be the Sylvanas.
Yeah, I like the Sylvanas here a lot. It threatens to take a minion, and it also threatens just the Brawl afterwards. If you're able to just Sylvanas and Brawl, you're just guaranteed to steal a minion and swing the tempo in your favor, and that's absolutely huge.
Yeah, this is one of those plays where, sure, he is just giving che0nsu the ability to push 8 damage here. He's not affecting the board state immediately, but the tension that Sylvanas builds on this board, it's scary for che0nsu. If he leaves it up, it's disaster. And this is the kind of play that Sylvanas can force this spot. Trading in the 3/3 prior to the 5-power minion so there's no steal is a huge tempo swing for Cydonia here.
Yeah, he had to sink so many resources into that Sylvanas just so he could play around that potential Brawl or the other blowouts that can happen with Sylvanas.
Yeah, but now the Gore Howl over to Cydonia. Just a couple turns here. Looking like this is swinging back in his favor.
Oh yeah, Gore Howl is huge here. Just being able to remove your opponent's entire turn and still have development on the board. Although you don't have a minion in play, that Gore Howl is significant development. That threatens to remove the next minion che0nsu plays, and you're able to invest your life into board control very easily.
Yeah, Cydonia is looking for that long game plan. che0nsu's looking to end the game. These 3 cards on the left side with the 2 Blood to Ichors and the Execute, these have been dead for almost the entire game. The Curator going to give him a lot of gas needed to start to make this final push.
Yeah, Cydonia is also taking a lot of damage from this Gore Howl to secure up this board, and che0nsu is starting to accumulate some potential damage in hand. He has the Kor'kron Elite, he has the Blood to Ichor, which can activate Grom later on, and he has the Finley, which could potentially get him the Hunter hero power. So,
a lot of stuff. It could help him dig into the build with life tap. Finley's just a strong card in this deck. Dragon Warrior doesn't need that armor most of the time. Looking for anything else to get an edge elsewhere, because most of its cards just get expended very aggressively.
You see the Ragnaros come out onto the field, and che0nsu has been holding a lot of cards on the left side of his hand. So there's fairly likely to be an Execute in there. So,
yeah, for Cydonia, this is more just a matter of he needs to do something to try to get che0nsu to force mana.
Cydonia really doesn't have any other minions he can, develop. The other option is like playing 2 ghouls there, which is super awkward, or trying to go for the Tink Master to make a 5/5, which is not a solid plan. So he's kind of just pigeonholed into playing the Ragnaros based on the resources that he has, and that opens up honestly a swing turn for che0nsu where he can spend 3 mana to remove the Ragnaros and create a 2/2.
Yeah, plus he has the extra mana to develop afterwards.
Yeah, 5 mana to just develop however he pleases behind that. And looks like he pleases to develop with Finley.
Not strong options, though.
Fire Blast is at least 1 damage to the face and is very flexible with your Grom, so you can extend both Blood to Ichors at some point and still have an activator for Grom. And is also just you always have an Execute activator, so you get to use your cards very aggressively, which is a really strong point.
Exactly what he's doing with his Fiery Oryx right now. Sending 3 damage, activating that Draconid Crusher now that Cydonia is below 15 health. And this is where the pressure can really get crazy. Honestly, I love this play from che0nsu, because if he had killed this Ragnaros, the read from che0nsu is that Brawl is in Cydonia's hand. If he kills this Ragnaros, it's a snap Brawl for Cydonia. Now, Cydonia looks at this board. Does he even want to Brawl?
Yeah, that is a really good read there. We said earlier, che0nsu, he always makes, straightforward, just good plays, doesn't make too many flashy plays. This is a very flashy play from che0nsu. So he's really stepping it up here as he's made it to this stage. And
wow, that is crazy.
I like it. He's taking a huge gamble here on, Cydonia's had really slow turns throughout the early and mid game. I think there's Brawl in his hand. I'm going to play around Brawl by not removing the Rag. That's a really next level read and a really next level play.
I mean, just look at the difference. No Ragnaros, Brawl instantly. With the Ragnaros on board, can he afford to Brawl and give away his Ragnaros sometimes?
Yeah.
Crazy. And Cydonia, look at the play he's having to go for. He's forced into this position where he's going to have to try to have Ragnaros hit this Draconid Crusher. If this fails, che0nsu needs 6 damage to end the game if this Ragnaros doesn't hit. And it doesn't.
Wow.
What a play from che0nsu to deter Cydonia from the Brawl and have a follow-up like this.
Yeah, che0nsu has really swung this game around. It looked like he was kind of struggling there for a minute. It looked like Cydonia was going to be able to Brawl his extension, then Brawl his next extension and kind of stabilize with the armor up. But that's not the case here. He's changed it into a Rag Flip instead and is going to be able to get through 9 damage because of it.
1 damage away for che0nsu, but this is where it can get really tricky too. If he forces too much but not enough, Cydonia can have armor stabilization, Iron Forge Portal, shield block.
Sure.
Those things can add up and keep him out of reach of che0nsu's hand. Now the Execute has to come down. He needs to try to protect his board position a little bit. He will be making a big push in the next few turns. From here on out, it's che0nsu, I think, is full steam ahead.
Yeah, I agree with that. Needs to kind of close out this game rather quickly now. Now he knows the Brawl is going to be getting very large amounts of value on the board.
There's another Ironforge portal. Cydonia, if this brawl goes favorably, he could be in a very good spot. Now, the kicker to that is if any of che0nsu's minions live, he's going to have to consider what it's like with what minion it is. Like, say it's Draconid Crusher.
If it's Draconid Crusher,
It's got a Tink Master.
he's got a Tink Master, and that means he's not playing Ironforge Portal, which means if it's a 5/5, he loses the game. So it's still, Cydonia's not out of the woods yet. He
No.
gets good brawl value here, but being at 2 life is very costly, and having to
Here we go.
force 5 mana into the brawl is also very costly.
2 Ravaging Ghouls for Cydonia that could live through this. Neither one will, and
3/4.
3/4. So now Cydonia, this will be Ironforge Portal to try to stabilize through this health total. But he's got some heat on him. He knows that there are multiple cards in che0nsu's deck that will kill Cydonia right now. Fiery War Axe, another Kor'kron Elite, Blackwing Corruptor. There are so many things that actually end the game here for che0nsu. Cydonia, he's got to be sweating.
Azure Drake can draw into them. It can't draw into the Blackwing Corruptor, though, and it can't draw into
Grom, Hellscream at this point,
Yeah.
wandering out. Kor'kron Elite.
Alex Straz's champion.
Yep.
Be a whiff, but so close, not able to get there. That's going to give Cydonia the time to hero power and play the second Ironforge Portal. He could be reaching stabilization. He's right on the edge.
I mean, if che0nsu, if this game slips away from him, honestly, I'm surprised it was even this close. It looked
Sure,
like che0nsu
yeah.
was just going to fall out of the game, and the fact that he's got to this position, I think, is remarkable.
His play set him up to get that 9 extra damage in. I didn't think that 9 damage was ever going to connect.
Did not either. Yep, and now with the ragtag crew of cards left in che0nsu's hand, going to try to piece together an assault here, but I think you're right. Cydonia is very close to stabilizing.
Close, but not there yet. There's most likely going to have to be that same situation that just happened. If that Azure Drake lives, Cydonia is in a heap of trouble.
Execute, no help.
He's going to have to brawl again.
Wow.
There's a guaranteed 2 damage coming in from che0nsu's side.
And a much weaker brawl of that.
He's starting to run che0nsu out of cards, though. che0nsu is going to be only on 3 cards when it goes back to his turn, but
Ironforge Portal. There's few Ironforge Portal drops that are really strong here, too.
Arctic Armor would have been sick.
Yeah. The animated armor, the mage card. Tournament Medic. Would have been really solid here as well. Anything that just further stabilizes him.
Any taunt.
And once again, che0nsu, there are some cards in the deck that won him the game this turn.
Not quite able to get there just yet, but he has, that one final push. He knows both brawls have been used. He could extend every minion in his hand onto the board now. Pretty carefree. He knows that there's the potential of revenge, but revenge most likely would have been used last turn instead of the brawl.
Yep, unless there was just absolutely no way to stick past that Azure Drake with just 4 extra armor and the hero power. I think there was, and even going to put the extra damage on board with the Frothing Berserker. Says Cydonia, you have to answer this, and Bash gets picked up for Cydonia.
He's going to stabilize.
che0nsu is out of cards right now. Now, there are still some draws in che0nsu's deck that can pull him back in this.
He's going to need one of those big finishers. He's going to need the Ragnaros or the Grom. Grom, 10 damage off the top because he has the mage hero power. So it's not over for him yet. Cydonia's
just crazy.
So close to stabilizing, but he's just not there yet. And Cydonia really has to evaluate, can he afford to beat some of those big threats? Should he just use the execute now to further increase his stabilization?
That's exactly what he'll be doing.
I think he should. He's got the
Absolutely.
Tink Master, and if Rag comes out right now, he's pretty much just dead anyway. If Grom comes out right now, he's dead. So he can draw into an answer for that, but for now he needs to answer the immediate situation, start accumulating armor.
Yep, and will use Tink Master just as an offensive pressure at this point. I mean,
he's got a lot of damage.
che0nsu is down to 14 at this point as well, so this is a 2-turn clock for Cydonia at this point. che0nsu picks up a Fiery War Axe, and that will set a clock to Cydonia now.
For a turn, and yeah, that's a 2-turn clock.
Oh my gosh, it's gonna come down to a draw from Cydonia.
He needs armor gain.
He needs armor, or he needs a way to close. N'Zoth will give him
an
invested Tauren.
He's in it. There's still draws from che0nsu to be able to close out this game, though. But that gives him the infested Tauren.
Cydonia doesn't have a play here. It has to be N'Zoth. It has to be attack. He has to hope to fade the draw from che0nsu.
There's a few
Wow.
outs.
This is just game one, by the way. This is just game one. And that won't do
That's
it.
a whiff.
Cydonia is going to pick up game number one.
Wow.
But I'll tell you what, Cydonia has got his work cut out for him. He played magnificent, but so did che0nsu.
They both, yeah, that was incredible to watch.
I mean, that is crazy. The brawl read that came in, the fact that Cydonia understood to save the brawls in the right spot, to expend the shield slam on a weak minion, everything.
Expending the execute on the weak minion as well. Just great reads from both players. Couldn't ask for a better start to this series.
Certainly could not have. Game two is coming up right after this.
The Hearthstone World Championship is sponsored in part by Intel, T-Mobile, NVIDIA, and Republic of Gamers.
Now that you've qualified, have you gotten more of your family on board the Hearthstone hype train?
Yeah, it was really funny. My mom watched the whole tournament, and like my dad watched it also, and he even got like other people from my family to come with him watch, and they all don't understand anything. But when you get hyped, TJ, they get hyped too, so it's working.
That's going to be it. Cydonia is going to close this out, and he is going to be moving on to the grand finals.
You said like your sister was showing the text
she
messages
was,
of her boyfriend or something?
Yeah, because she couldn't watch it, and yeah, her boyfriend was watching it and texting her constantly, like something would happen. So he would text her like 50 times during a match. It reads like, oh, he might be winning. Oh, no, it's bad. Oh, yeah, it's good. Oh, he's winning. Something's happening. I don't know what. Oh, it's 1-0. Oh, 1-1. And then she answers him, I'm so stressed out. It's really fun for me that like my families and friends and all that, they're getting really hyped about this. It's more fun than just, they're like, oh, stop going on vacation without us. No, but they're really supportive.
Have you tried to teach them how to play?
My girlfriend tried to play Akran 25, and she said what every player who plays and loses a game said. I don't see anything I could have done differently. So
She's perfect.
she's perfect, yeah.
She'll be a legend player in no time.
Yeah.
You know, and this is something I've loved about Cydonia. He's just got such a genuine attitude, and he's such a nice guy. He just loves the game. And to see him at this big stage competing for this, it's remarkable.
Yeah, it really is. He's been such a positive personality behind stage all the time, and he's really been putting a lot of work into it. We see him and che0nsu both, you know, behind stage, in the player area, just grinding away at games.
Yeah, che0nsu is doing the same thing too. He's watching the players backstage, he's cheering them on, and both of these guys, I've been seeing them, they're working when they're back there. They are not taking this time to just relax. They are studying how to tackle this match.
Well, there's a lot at stake, so...
just a little bit. You know, just a match of Hearthstone, potentially worth $250,000 to first place. It's not the biggest deal.
All right, right into the first game, che0nsu queuing up with the Zoo Warlock up against Cydonia's Tempo Mage.
Yeah, and the Cydonia Tempo Mage, very much taking sort of the Pavel influence from it as well, playing a little bit more of the top end, but something he has cut from this is the Faceless Summoner that we saw Pavel use earlier today. Instead, he's rolled with Water Elementals, he's got Flame Strike double, Firelands Portal. It's more of a scaling build, but not quite the same commitment that Pavel had.
Yeah, it's interesting. In opening week, Cydonia actually did have the Faceless Summoners in this build, and then he's decided to cut them as he's just kind of adjusted to the tournament meta, seeing that people are starting to go a little bit faster and a little bit less control in the lineups. And I think it's a very good change, and it should help him out in this matchup in particular. Yeah,
and speaking of fast, che0nsu's deck, he's playing the Zoo Warlock with a very heavy focus on the discard aspect. 2 copies of Darkshire Librarian to try to pitch those Silverware Golems away. Even a copy of Demon Fire in here to accent the early demons.
Yeah, it's going to be a quick one, that's for sure. Cydonia's got a crazy start, though. He's got the Mana Worm, and he has the missiles and the Flame Waker, and even the coin is just super powerful as a Tempo Mage deck because it synergizes with so many of your cards.
Yeah, buffing up Mana Worm, of course, unleashing Flame Wakes.
Flame Wakes.
Because it's a spell here, and che0nsu going with Voidwalker first, picks up Flame Imp, and now will kind of begin the assault, but I think very, very cleverly deciding to kind of cut into the Mana Worm damage here a little bit. Voidwalker worth a lot less than the Mana Worm is.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It makes it so the Mana Worm can't trade up as easily into the Voidwalker if it were to get buffed by 2 spells from Cydonia's side, or
even on the trade here, just the Possessed Villager returning the job here.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Cydonia taking a little bit of a passive turn here, just kind of accumulating resources in his hand, waiting for that key moment to strike with a big Flame Waker turn, where he's going to play Flame Waker and just a bunch of spells to swing the board state in his favor. And this is what you don't want to see when you're setting up for that, is that Imp Gang boss. That just totally destroys all of your Flame Waker plans. It is the ultimate answer to Tempo Mage in the Zoo Warlock deck.
And this is, to me, one of the reasons that Zoo Warlock oftentimes can be favored in this matchup, is when they have a strong opener into Imp Gang boss to prevent things like Flame Waker from happening, to prevent Arcane Missiles from sweeping up these board positions. You look at this board state, Cydonia is going to have trouble getting back on the board.
Yeah, he's going to have to take suboptimal turns this turn, and then che0nsu's going to try and protect the Imp Gang boss to continue forcing Cydonia to take suboptimal turns throughout the rest of the game to play around those missiles, generating tons of imps.
And that's kind of just been the game plan for che0nsu almost the entire match so far, is to just create awkward turns for Cydonia. Here it's a little bit easier for him just because he had a strong curve, but it's been kind of a focus of his decks.
I think honestly, as Cydonia here, you just dump one of the Flame Wakers onto the field. If che0nsu cannot answer this, you're going to generate enough missiles that you can just get the job done regardless of the fact that that's an Imp Gang boss.
And it's a scary proposition.
Hey, you know what? che0nsu says, you play a Flame Waker, I raise you an Imp Gang boss.
Yeah. Cydonia's got to pair
himself. He could go for the juggle, though. He has the tapped this turn. If he could find a buff card such as Direwolf Alpha, Abusive Sergeant off the tap, and if he whiffs on the tap, he could play the Knife Juggler, and then che0nsu has a 50-50 to remove the Flame Waker. So there's some consideration for that, but he ends up just going with the Imp Gang boss.
Yeah, this is a really interesting play too. Once again, cutting into the Flame Waker, trying to just reduce the amount of room that Cydonia has to work with on his minion side. And this isn't really even that risky of a play for che0nsu in this spot because he's got that second Imp Gang boss. Still very difficult for Cydonia to have a big swing turn here, given that they'll just be spawning extra imps.
Well, that is a lot of missiles. How many missiles is that exactly? Each spell generates 2 additionals.
8.
Yeah.
11. I mean, he's got 11 missiles. And he won't have hero power if that happens, but 11 missiles is a lot of missiles. And double Flame Waker, you know, a pair of Imp Gang boss is good. We're gonna find out if a pair of a pair of Flame Wakers can be even better. And here's the thing, if the board gets filled and the Imp Gang bosses start taking damage, they won't spawn additional imps.
Yeah, pretty fortunate there that Cydonia was actually able to fill the board completely with the Flame Waker missiles and discount 1 imp generation.
Reasonable shots. But
not a full clear.
yeah, still not a terrible position for che0nsu in this spot. But now that the second Flame Waker is hit and it's fresh, Cydonia knows there's no buff in hand. che0nsu would have killed the Flame Waker that turn.
Exactly.
The onus is on che0nsu to answer this second Flame Waker.
He needs to find something. He needs either a Doom Guard, a Soul Fire, just any sort of buff, any sort of removal here could potentially get the job done, swing him right back into this game. Protecting the Sorcerer's Apprentice here by taking that trade with the Flame Waker a little bit. Trying to just get max value out of it.
Oh, that's the perfect draw for che0nsu,
the
though.
entire board.
And this is the stage of the game where Zoo Warlock can really take advantage of these early struggles, is you get into a resource battle, the resource battle goes even, and you get to start life tapping.
Yeah, exactly. That's where Zoo really strives, is when both players are out of cards, because Zoo is never really out of cards. Life
Till
tap.
they're just dead.
Yeah, once they're out of life, they're out of cards, because then they can't even tap anymore. Ice Barrier, not what Cydonia was looking for off the Babbling Book, hoping to try and get, you know, any sort of decent value spell to keep his hand going, keep the resources flowing, but forced here just to develop a Water Elemental into a Knife Juggler.
That's a terrible draw for che0nsu at this point.
Ooh, is it?
Well, you know, yes and no. He would have liked to just draw the Doom Guard first.
Yeah, exactly.
But his next turn is very strong.
Oh, yeah.
And this is the turn where he doesn't really have a strong way to just trade up into anything, so he has to take what he can get and go from there. The Water Elemental going to be doing some massive work here. But again, the pressure really on Cydonia here, just simply from the card battle standpoint. He doesn't have a way to launch an assault in this position, and so he's still fighting for board. The Water Elementals, I think, are going to really help this because they just have a lot of health, but it's still a long way to go.
Yeah, and they can freeze the Doom Guard and slow it down a little bit, but yeah, you're right. che0nsu's got the tempo, so he's going to be the one that's able to go face. And that Malkazar's Imp is huge. He gets to draw an additional card here.
And get a 1/3.
And get a 1/3.
And that's not just a 1/3. That's a fairly priority 1/3 because this will make Darkshire Librarians draw extra cards. It returns from Soulfires. Cydonia's looking at that Malkazar's Imp and thinking that might be what I need to take care of. That's going to cause him to take more damage if that's the case.
Yeah, can he afford to take care of it? He takes an additional 2 damage, and really that's it. So I think it is worth killing over one of the Silverware Golems, but it's kind of close. Having the Ice Barrier honestly helps, though. He's got a lot of life to play with. Technically speaking, Cydonia is pretty much still at 30 life.
Yeah, and the Ragnaros draw here actually a big deal as well, because with the Ice Barrier, he has plenty of time, but he needed to find a way to make up that advantage. That Ragnaros will give him a way to kind of inevitably make up that disadvantage.
Yeah, if the Ragnaros gets ignored and che0nsu continues going face, then that's basically Cydonia is just selling some of his life for board control at that point, which is what he wants.
8 turns in and we're still fighting for board with Zoo versus Tempo Mage.
That's always how it goes with Zoo, right?
And that's a really awkward draw if you're in che0nsu's spot, because that's not just, here's the deal. To che0nsu, that's a secret. He doesn't know it's Ice Barrier. That came from Babbling Book. Yeah. There are no secrets naturally in Cydonia's build. He's got to navigate piece by piece to figure out what this is.
Yeah, he took a bit of a gamble there, hoping it wasn't Mirror Entity, and he had some information to work with, because the secret wasn't played immediately after the Babbling Book, so you automatically can assume it's most likely a low priority secret for Cydonia, whereas Mirror Entity would have been a high priority secret because it has so much value against a deck that runs all minions.
And the fact that Cydonia was able to fight for the board so hard has left che0nsu trying to get past the development stage And suddenly Cydonia is at 27 life, and a Ragnaros is hitting the board.
Yeah.
It's pretty good for che0nsu, though.
Yeah, that was the best minion.
Ooh.
He would have preferred, obviously, getting hit in the face, I guess, but that's a pretty big offensive there.
I don't know if he would. Face cost him 4 cards long term.
How does he have a long enough term to ever life tap 4 times?
How he might. I think it comes down to a lot on this Dark Peddler, where now there's options to clear the Ragnaros fairly easily if he wants. You know, he has really no read on the last card in Cydonia's hand, I think, other than that it's not Flame Strike.
Yeah, it's only been there the 1 turn, so it is very possible for che0nsu to be able to clear the Rag
And
here,
he's
but
actually just going to push, so I think you're right. I think he would have much rather had it gone face in that position.
yeah, he Soulfires off the Water Elemental here, I guess, to try and make sure his Doomguard can't be taken care of. Try and keep as many minions on the board, be as aggressive as possible. Realizes that Ragnaros is kind of a time crunch for him, so he doesn't have enough time to empty his hand first, then Soulfire. He needs to make it happen right now.
And Cydonia he's eyeing the Azure Drake prior to the Arcane Intellect here. I'm not sure which is actually more favorable here. I mean, even if he hit a Flame Strike or a Fire Lance Portal, he doesn't have the mana to cast it this turn. So getting the 4/4 on board very important in this spot. And those are weak draws.
Yeah, you can't utilize the Babbling Book card now, but I guess you just get it out there. The missiles is pretty unlikely to clear something. Frost Nova's huge. That could buy him an additional turn of Rag just killing
Is
something.
that another Doomguard? Oh, that is huge, che0nsu.
That's lethal.
That's lethal. Unreal draw for che0nsu. What on earth? That is the only card in the deck alone that won him the game this turn.
And he was running out of time really quick.
Yes.
That Frost Nova was about to come down. That Rag was going to keep getting additional shots. Cydonia was going to dig closer to his big swing cards like Flame Strike, so.
Very timely pickup. Very fortunate for che0nsu, but again, I have to give credit to both of these guys. They've been fighting so hard for the board and trying to hedge the bets at every single step of the way. It's led to these crazy endgame circumstances where they're left up to the will of the cards. So we'll find out who breaks the tie. Game number 3 is coming up right after this.
How did you end up getting so good at Hearthstone?
대회 많이 보긴 하는데 저는 그것보다는 생각하면서 집중하면서 해요. 하스스톤은 확률 같은 거 계산하고 어떤 선택을 하면 얼마나 좋은 게 따라올지 생각하고.
Do you think other players don't necessarily focus on the calculating aspect of Hearthstone as much?
차분하게 하고 싶어서 늘게 하고 모든 경우 생각하고 싶어가지고 늘게 해요. 상대가 플레이하는 거 보고 그때 가장 좋은 플레이 안 했다 싶으면 그 카드는 없다고 생각하고 그렇게 카드를 예측해요.
Do you tend to play, take more risks, or do you tend to play safe?
따로 리스크한 플레이나 안전한 플레이 그런 거는 별로 생각하지 않고 승률이 가장 높은 플레이를 해요.
Do you cross the street when the stop sign is on?
사람들이 안 보고 있으면 하죠.
As far as I'm concerned, that means risky at the end.
That is a little risky.
Sometimes somebody's looking, you just don't know they're looking.
Sometimes you get a jaywalking ticket.
Yeah, I've never had one of those. So I've never even heard of that happening. I've heard of it existing, just not actually happening.
Nope, it's gonna catch up to you, Admirable. You better look out.
I'm looking out. If no one's looking, I'm going for it, just like che0nsu. Love what he said though, where he's focusing on trying to get himself away from a particular playstyle. So many players tend to favor a conservative or a very aggressive playstyle, but adjusting to the moment is paramount to the kinds of success these players can have. That's one of the reasons che0nsu's here right now.
Yeah, that's very true. And I liked the bit he said about reading his opponent's hand and trying to navigate and figure out what cards are in their opponent's hand. We actually saw him do that to great success in game 1 of this series, which is just really cool to see. That's my favorite moments in Hearthstone, is when players are able to make reads and adjust their playstyle based onto the cards that they perceive are in their opponent's hand.
Yeah, I mean, the play that's best from your perspective is not always the best play because of what your opponent has. Obviously, if you could see both hands, it'd be an easy game.
Sure.
Like for us, for instance.
It's a very easy game for us, but these players have to figure it out by small tells, hesitations, and how players respond to specific certain situations.
Now, game 3, it's che0nsu's Tempo Mage versus Cydonia and the Hunter build. And once again, not a very subtle build for the Hunter. It wants to get on the ground running and try to punish some weak starts.
The secret composition in this mid-range secret Hunter deck has 2 cat tricks, 2 freezing traps, and 2 snipes. So it does very well against a lot of spell-oriented classes with the cat tricks. And Snipe is what do you think of that card? It's been kind of falling in and out of these Hunter builds.
I personally really like Snipe. And one of the reasons I like it so much is this: if you're able to get on board, your opponent misses a 1-drop, and you have Snipe behind a Secret Keeper, you are looking good to keep control of that game for a very long time. And I think that's really important. And something else to consider is that the number of rogue players that could have potentially come into this top 8 is massive. And so having 2 snipes, say Cydonia gets down the road, he faces Pavel. 2 snipes against Pavel is a big deal. He's not just thinking about this match, he's thinking about, what about my semifinals? What about my finals match?
Makes a lot of sense. Gotta plan for the future if you're trying to plan to win.
Not a strong result from the Arcane Missiles either, 2 to face. che0nsu definitely wanted those to be hitting minions.
This snipe is huge here. Cydonia can utilize this snipe here to completely stop che0nsu from being able to get a Flame Waker off, and che0nsu might just bank on it being, you know, one of the other 2 secrets, since that's more likely. And if he plays a Flame Waker into a snipe, that could be lights out.
Now, the one thing to think about, I think, for che0nsu is what the secret means here. The fact that Cydonia isn't playing a 3-cost card here. There's no Animal Companion, there's no Cloaked Huntress, there's no Eagle Horn Bow. He's choosing to play this. I mean, it's basically got to be Cat Trick or Snipe in this spot.
Yeah, it has to be a good card for you to want to play it off curve. So Freezing Trap is not a particularly good card when your opponent has no minions in play.
Right.
So he can narrow it down to 2 traps, and when you narrow it down to 2 traps, he plays around it.
Yep. Loot Hoarder, a great pickup to help play around it, and you can see one of the reasons why. Picking up the extra card, offsetting the tempo a little bit here. Mana Worm not the strongest into your opponent's 2-3, but I think at this point, che0nsu's got to take what he can get to try to cut into this board a little.
Yeah, he's behind right now, but that's kind of the design of the Tempo Mage. A lot of times you start up behind in games, but you're able to swing the board back with Flame Waker combos, utilizing the coin, utilizing Flame Waker, Arcane Missiles, all these sort of cheap spells with Flame Waker, and then you explode from that point onward.
Yep. Eagle Horn Bow to clean up there. Cydonia fearing the Mana Worm more than just wanting the development from Barnes on this turn, and that's a really interesting turn, I think.
Yeah,
It's tough to leave a Mana Worm up.
It is really tough. It threatens.
Has up a Barnes too.
But if you leave up the Mana Worm, then all che0nsu has to do is play any spell, and then his Mana Worm can take a value trade on to your Secret Keeper, and you're starting to slip away from the board. So I like respecting it.
I think I do too. But the thing to really note more so about this is that che0nsu, every single step of the way, has just had cards that are fairly weak, but are still manipulating Cydonia's play. Still changing the way he would ideally approach the situation. And this tracking is offering him 3 options that, frankly, I think he wants all of them.
Yeah, that's super awkward for him. He would love to have, you know, Savannah Highmane going into his turn 6, but the secret there is also very, very powerful.
And with the Barnes on board and no way to actually clear up without investing too much, forced to have a Barnes of his own, and so now the board tension really building, and I think this is a spot that it can favor che0nsu. Look at his hand and the spells that he can have here.
Yeah, he doesn't quite have the ideal mana count for what he wants to do. Ideally, he'd like to be able to go Flame Waker, coined missiles, but that's just not in the cards for him yet. So the Flame Wakers are still a little bit weak. You could maybe consider going off with it now, though. And the reason why you'd want to go off with Flame Waker now, although it's tempting to wait on it for the huge explosive turn you could have later, it's your opponent's turn 6 coming up soon. They've played a tracking. They have filtered their deck out to specific cards, and the strongest card on turn 6, if you have the board control, is Savannah Highmane. And you need to have a big board development before turn 6 so that you can beat Savannah Highmane. Otherwise, you are going to fall way too far behind on the value game.
It is such a powerful card with the Hunters ahead. It is kind of the bread and butter spot for Hunters. Get ahead going into turn 6, drop Savannah Highmane.
That's the game plan.
Yeah, and here che0nsu he's trying to go to the ends of the earth to keep that from happening.
Yep.
And full clear, you know, it's a very high percentage to happen when you set up 4 1-health minions and get 5 missiles.
Yep. And I love this play from che0nsu. He knows what the mid-range Hunters deck is designed to try and do. And now Cydonia, if he wants to play Highmane, one of the most powerful cards in the deck on curve, he would have to forego killing a Flame Waker, and that's very expensive.
And it's scary as well.
It's scary. It's a big risk, and he's going to take the risk.
I can't blame him for it either. I mean, he's got Animal Companion and Argent Horse Rider as his reload here. The Savannah Highmane's just going to have to pull some heat and hope that he can get to a safe Ragnaros turn. If he can pull Burn from che0nsu's hand, there's a chance this Ragnaros sticks around for a while.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. A lot of times people see the Flame Waker and kind of overreact to it. And I think you're right that just one Flame Waker after che0nsu has exhausted so many cheap spells isn't that big of a deal. So I think Cydonia's got a really solid read on the situation.
Either way, the Flame Waker able to clean up the board position. So Argent Horse Rider here, not doing a tremendous job trading, just the mage hero power able to wipe it up afterwards. But again, this was about forcing resources from che0nsu to get to the Ragnaros turn. So this is kind of a multi-turn build that's been happening here for Cydonia.
Like sacrificing Savannah Highmane so that he could have the board going into turn 8.
Right.
Let's make
These drop, I mean, it's just been heat back and forth. This is bad news for Cydonia suddenly. Oftentimes when it comes down to these Ragnaros plays, the player who plays it first is at a disadvantage because the responding player has a chance for their Ragnaros to land the killing blow.
See where this Ragnaros goes?
I'm not even sure it matters right here.
Yeah, it's not too consequential where it lands. I think you would still prefer it to hit face.
That's the fastest play che0nsu's ever made!
Yeah. I mean, he didn't have any other options here.
And he takes out the Ragnaros! And that is bad news for Cydonia. Down to weak utility cards, a 3-4, and che0nsu is at 26 health still.
Got a lot of work to do before that kill command's gonna be lethal.
And che0nsu's not out of gas. He picks up a Firelands portal.
Wow.
I think that's lights out. That is enormous from che0nsu. These last 2 turns have been absolutely destructive to Cydonia. That is it. The game is not ended, but it is over.
And I think the key moments in this game, if you kind of look at how and break down what really happened in this game, it was first off che0nsu identifying he needs to go for the board control going in to turn 6 so he can beat Savannah Highmane. He correctly identifies that, goes for that, and then Cydonia having the choice between, you know, how does he want to develop here? Does he want to just remove the Flame Waker and kind of panic to it? Or does he want to set up the Highmane and try and stall to Rag? And he goes for the stall to Rag, hoping che0nsu doesn't have his own Ragnaros. And unfortunately for him, che0nsu had the Ragnaros. I still think he had a very solid game plan.
I agree.
And executed it very strongly.
Yep, and che0nsu even making use of full utility here, the Arcane Blast to launch Flame Waker missiles to ensure lethal that turn. This has been a spectacular match between these two. I think the play has been absolutely on point.
Couldn't agree with you more.
che0nsu now, 2-1 lead. Cydonia gotta be sweating. Game number 4 coming up right after this.
The Hearthstone World Championship is sponsored in part by Intel, T-Mobile, NVIDIA, and Republic of Gamers.
How does it feel to be back?
Great.
Are you nervous?
No, I'm not super nervous. Basically, I think my opponents are more nervous than me, so it makes me more chill.
Why do you think they're more nervous than you? Why do you think that you'll be more calm than everybody else?
I think they have more pressure. For example, guys like Handsome Guy and Thais, like everyone is saying they are gonna win, and everyone is saying they are the best players in the world, so they have to prove it. Last time I was the underdog, this time, well, I'm pretty much the underdog again, and I think it's a role that suits me pretty well. I'm fine with them having all the pressure, and I just have to show that I can play against them, just show up, play well.
What kind of things can you do to, say, intimidate an opponent who's sitting across from you? Do you, like, wink at them?
No, I don't wink at people. I will stare them down.
It's kind of interesting that Cydonia's got really two very different characters. When he's super focused, it's like laser focus. But when he's relaxed, just all smiles and having a good time.
Yeah, usually pretty happy-go-lucky, but as soon as he's in the booth, you can see him there staring down che0nsu.
I don't want to play people who can do that.
You don't like the glares?
It's terrifying.
Terrifying.
You ever just glared at yourself in the mirror?
No?
Me either.
Okay. Yeah.
I'd probably get chills, though. Probably. Cydonia, I mean, he talked about not being nervous, pressure not on him, but, I mean, he's down 2-1 right now.
That's when the pressure turns on.
Yeah, I mean, this is the biggest match of his life right now, bar none. And here we go. It's che0nsu on this Arcane Giant Druid build. Cydonia running back the Hunter here, and I think a much stronger starting hand here for Cydonia. He's got Secret Keeper, and he's got the secret, I think one of the secrets you want versus Druid.
Yeah, Cat Trick would be slightly better, and Freezing Trap, though, is situationally good. A lot of times you're able to, get an innervated minion frozen trapped, and that's just amazing. But sometimes you get a happy little tree.
Yeah, that's the kind of the sad spot of that. Now, the blessing is most of the time Living Roots is suited for removal against this build. Like this Secret Keeper this is getting killed straight away.
Sure.
So the Freezing Trap will eventually net some value for him here unless che0nsu's able to make more tokens. But looking at his Druid build, it's not really like that. I mean, he's kind of going all in on the end game.
Yeah, he's got a lot of top end here. He has the Ancient of War, the Ragnaros, and the Malagos at the top end of the Druid. He's got a Barnes even in there to try and pull out either an Emperor, a Rag, or a Malagos. So a lot of threats in this Druid deck, but at the moment, che0nsu can almost play his entire hand. That's how low threat he has.
Yeah, this is not a strong opening hand for che0nsu. Moonfire is a card that it can play utility, but for the most part, this is a combo card with Malagos. Against some of the more aggressive builds, it can help buy you time, but early on, this is the last thing he wanted to see.
Yeah, it combos very nicely with his Azure Drake, actually, to get some work done, so that's a fortunate pickup for him now, potentially.
Cydonia chooses not to play the Freezing Trap and instead Hero Powers here, and that's really interesting to me. That gives che0nsu the green light to just do whatever he wanted this turn.
Yeah, if you play the freezing trap, it definitely makes it a lot harder to play Innervate or Wild Growth because you're afraid of potentially Cat Trick. It definitely makes it a lot harder to just Innervate out of Azure Drake because now you're playing into Cat Trick and Snipe. But what he wanted to do is squeeze in an extra 2 damage so that he could play the trap on the next turn with the Cloaked Huntress for free. So is deceiving your opponent and trying to make them have to play around secrets worth more or less than 2 damage to you?
Right, and now in this position, he's going with Animal Companion to try to offset the Azure Drake here, and he rolls Leok.
And he's super punished for this.
I think this is the first misstep of the match for Cydonia.
Yeah, I don't like the way that this opening has really unfolded. He kind of pigeonholed himself into having to play the Cloaked Huntress if he wanted to get the freezing trap up by doing the hero power on turn 2, and since then that's kind of forced him to have awkward turns, and that's kind of the gamble he took, trying to force out that extra 2 damage there, and it doesn't look like it paid off for him.
His tracking not very kind as well. I mean, glad to see 2 Kindly Grandmothers hitting the bin at this point. Very low value card at this stage. And kind of in this matchup in general, just not super strong unless you're threatening like big Houndmaster turns or something. But now, Azure Drake's got value. He's been able to wipe up an Animal Companion. And I think che0nsu he's got some good information here.
Yeah, he's Moonfiring to check for the Cat Trick, which would be cleaned up by the Spell Power Swipe. Sees that it's not Cat Trick, can identify from this point that it is either Snipe or Freezing Trap, and most likely will hold the attack on the Azure Drake just to play around that Freezing Trap and keep a minion on the board.
Yeah, the Spell Power is definitely a threat for che0nsu. There's no need for him to attack right away. Now, the caveat to this is that Cydonia, if he has Eagle Horn Bow here, will squeeze out some extra damage from that.
Sure, gets the secret off on the bow and then gets an extra charge. But I definitely still think just having the threat of the Spell Power is worth taking 3 extra damage in the long run from Eagle Horn Bow.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you in that stage. Just, it's a really awkward state for Cydonia. He goes, he knows it's Freezing Trap, so gotta play honest.
Yeah. You see Cydonia just stranding the Drake there, developing out the Eagle Horn Bow so he can get those additional charges.
Yep, no need to swing with the Eagle Horn Bow here as well. He knows that there is not a copy of Harrison Jones in che0nsu's Druid build, so just saving the charges in case he needs to use them on minions, totally reasonable here.
And che0nsu developing the Arcane Giant this turn, and since he's developing an 8/8, he figures, you know what, let's get this Freezing Trap out of the way so that my Giant can't potentially be stranded by the Freezing Trap.
And now Cydonia is under some heat.
He has the ability to remove this turn if he wants to and try and play towards the kind of the game plan he played last game, which was just survive until Ragnaros and hope that Ragnaros can get the job done. Against Druid, Ragnaros is a lot less likely to just get the job done because there's so much top end in the Druid deck. Whereas before, you know, the Mage deck only had a very limited top end, but with the way that his hand's panning out, I think it's his highest % chance to just win the game.
I think it's by far. I mean, if you look at the way his development turns are going to go, he's just taking 8 a turn if he doesn't kill this. So taking 8 now and expending the kill command, hoping you can buy that value later down the road. If he doesn't do that, the game is lost, I think, at that point.
Yeah, because he's not going to win by racing down che0nsu. che0nsu's at 26. Druid has Feral Rage. Druid has Raven Idol, which can find additional healing. So the race is not going to be won that way. And
che0nsu chooses Minion and finds Fandral.
Yeah, che0nsu identified that this is going for a value game here. So my opponent just used a kill command to kill my 8/8. How can I extend value? Spells are not high value. Spells are great for tempo. Minion's a lot better for value. And he gets rewarded with his choice there, picking up a really solid minion. But I like the read there of the situation of the game.
That's really smart. I mean, the fact that he just saw 8 life expended from Cydonia, that the kill command was sent into the Arcane Giant.
Yeah.
He knows it's going long.
It's a value game now.
Very strong read from che0nsu. And Cydonia, it's tough to ever leave a Fandral on board.
Oh, yeah. That would have caused a 10-10 Ancient of War, potentially.
It's the ultimate dream. che0nsu now. It's such an awkward position because once again we're facing the secret.
It's always awkward.
The only information that he could possibly have at this point is that it's less likely to be Freezing Trap.
because there's already been one
Right.
played, right? And you know, the secret's just been top decked, so it would have been played in any situation. So
6 damage finds its way onto, I'm sorry, 4 damage onto Ancient of War. And
let's Cydonia able to clear it. If he does clear it, he takes a little bit of damage himself, falling down very low.
I mean, that is something to note here too. The fact that he took 8 from the Arcane Giant, he's at 13 right now. This is actually a really big turn because if the Ragnaros doesn't hit the Ancient of War here, he's taking 5 damage potentially.
If he's taking
maybe
5
more.
damage, he is dead. So he has to be able to identify here that there's burn damage in the hand of che0nsu.
I mean, how can he have that read though? che0nsu's just.
This swipe's been sitting there for a while. Maybe there hasn't been too many swipeable boards.
I mean, are you thinking 9 damage from opponent's hand?
Not often. Not often do you think that.
He knows one of them's Azure Drake. The other 2 are fresh.
Yeah, it's really hard to make the read, almost impossible. And even if you have some information, how do you win if you're not getting this Ragnaros to go 8 to face?
Exactly.
Like, the game will just drag on and you'll be at a more disadvantage because che0nsu will have more time to turn the 5 cards he has in his hand into board advantage. So I think the risk is necessary here by Cydonia to have a chance to win this game, and it just so happens that che0nsu has the burn to punish him for it.
Indeed, and if there's anything to look at here, it is the early turns from Cydonia, squeezing that extra 2 damage. It certainly hurt his curve for the rest of the game.
It was a gamble that did not pay off for him in the early game. Kind of lost a lot of tempo there, but
che0nsu, I mean, you talk about pressure. He's been playing great. He's feeling it.
Yeah, everybody feels pressure up there.
Wow, on match point for che0nsu. Cydonia needs to bounce back. Game number 5, right after this.
Do you think that Korea as a region in competitive Hearthstone is the strongest region?
가장 센 리전은 아니지만 두 번째는 되는 것 같아요.
Then what's first?
유럽.
Why do you think Europe is so good?
타이즈가 있으니까.
Just Thais?
예.
Do you think that the other regions are close, or do you think that Korea might have an edge over, say, China or the Americas?
이유가 특별히 높은 곳은 아니라고 생각하는데 이번에 다들 들고 온 덱들 보면은 다 생각의 수준들이 비슷하다고 생각해요. 다른 지역들도 거기에 뒤처지지 않는다고 생각합니다.
Have you thought about playing on the big stage at BlizzCon in front of a lot of people?
그게 가장 걱정돼요. 제가 긴장할 것 같아가지고.
What are you going to buy with the money?
일단 빚 갚아야죠. 저희 부모님 집.
What a humble guy.
Yeah, really is.
I mean, he's making a good argument for Korea being one of the strongest regions with the way that he's been playing this match.
I've been impressed by his reads. Not a lot of players are able to make such accurate reads, and he's been crushing it, really knocking it out of the park.
And I can't take anything away from Cydonia. He's been returning the favor.
Yeah, he's been playing very well, being able to execute his game plans super efficiently. He's picking very strong lines for the matchups. But I think in the one aspect, and the reason why che0nsu's having more success than Cydonia is just because che0nsu's able to identify what Cydonia is thinking just a little bit better, whereas Cydonia is great at executing his game plan. He's not as great as interfering with what che0nsu's game plan is.
Right, and some of that comes down to opportunity. The way that your draw pans out, a lot of these games, Cydonia has been the aggressor.
And he's just had to be, yeah.
But when che0nsu's been the aggressor, he's kind of been finding ways to throw Cydonia off.
Oh, yeah.
That's been the big difference. Cydonia's been testing for answers. che0nsu's been forcing answers.
Yeah, it's been really interesting to see. We've had a lot of kind of crazy plays unfold. The one that comes to mind the most to me still is that brawl. You know, how he played around the brawl by just overloading the board and saying, brawl your own Ragnaros.
Yeah, you keep him.
Yeah.
I don't care about that guy. He's only dealing 8.
And we get to see the Dragon Warrior up again from che0nsu. This is the deck that was defeated by Cydonia, still trying to find a win with it. And Cydonia still trying to get a win with this Hunter deck. He's been really struggling with it.
Yep, and Finley on turn 1 of the stronger plays, not only that Dragon Warrior has in general, but especially in this matchup. He's able to find Fire Blast right off the bat. And something Hunter can struggle with is the ability to keep 1 health minions on board and get some repetitive value from them.
Yeah, most definitely. And che0nsu is most likely going to assume that this is a snipe, just because there's no real other secret that you'd want to coin out in this point. We know there is Snipe, Freezing Trap, and Cat Trick in Cydonia's deck, and Dragon Warrior doesn't really play any spells, so you know every time that this is going to be Snipe, because it's very silly to Freezing Trap a Finley, and he assesses that and then plays the Fairy Dragon because it is the weaker minion there.
Right, there's no reason for Cydonia to play Cat Trick is really the big
it's just a useless card in the matchup, so why would you spend your coin on getting it out there?
Right, and so Fairy Dragon, useless. Strong play from che0nsu, and Kindly Grandmother from Cydonia will mean that che0nsu is able to answer back with that fresh pickup of the Fiery War Axe. A very key card against Hunters to buy their early game board.
Oh, yeah, very key card against almost every deck to buy the early game board.
This is looking tough already.
Well, Cydonia doesn't have a very high value hand, so I think it's very important that he gets charges on this bow, so I really like developing it here, trying to force situations where you're able to gain additional value out of your hand.
And well, the damage is pouring on now. I mean, he's buying value, but Hunter is not a value deck.
Ooh!
That's a strong draw. And by strong, I mean really strong. This is 5 extra mana getting developed. Of course, he's floating the 1, but this Cloaked Huntress is buying a ton of tempo for Cydonia here.
Yeah, absolutely insane. A little bit of a bummer that you're freezing trapping a Korkron Elite that can later on just recharge back at your face, but you're able to get bow charges out of the deal. You're able to put up that Snipe and that Cat Trick. che0nsu does know what all 3 secrets are, though, because Cydonia only runs 3 secrets.
Yeah, the problem here is that none of his cards are really strong versus these secrets.
Yeah, there's no way for him to play around them, really.
He's just going to have to make a sacrifice.
I guess you sacrifice, actually, maybe Azure Drake. I think a 3/3 charger.
Azure Drake's the dragon in hand, though.
Oh, you're right. Well, you hope to find another one. You get 2 draws. Azure Drake draws a card. I mean, it's a risk, but you're in a bad situation. That's when you got to take risks.
That's what we'll see che0nsu evaluate here.
Yeah.
This turn, he's going to take the full time on this one and figure out how each draw influences his next few turns, because that 1 Cloaked Huntress is changing the game. The fact that Quick Shot's the last card in Cydonia's hand also, this is a big sequence of turns for him.
You could go with the Blackwing Corruptor just to guaranteed get the removal here on the 3/4.
I think I like this. Sack the Alex Stronz's champion, perhaps? Maybe he doesn't want to give extra bow charges right now.
Maybe just ping and pass and then not even attack and just try and play the long-term value game. I like this. This is a very interesting way to deal with this situation. And this really puts Cydonia in a pickle. He can't even get rid of the Cat Trick. He can't cycle the Quick Shot. He's out of cards.
The Cat Trick was the worst draw in Cydonia's deck. Now, it's not because he couldn't play it this turn, it's because it actually just doesn't do anything in this matchup.
Sure.
If that's a Ragnaros, sure, he can't do anything with it right away, but at least he knows he has a Ragnaros coming. That is just a dead draw right now.
Yeah, it's super, super bad, especially in this high-pressure situation. And are we going to see che0nsu continue just to play the waiting game until he gets towards something that can not die to Snipe, or is he... I think at this point,
I mean, is he going for a Curator taking the snipe out? No way. There's no way he's skipping 2 turns. That'd be crazy.
he did take the gamble on trying to find something, I guess, to skip at the first turn and denying the bow charge so that his Kor'kron wouldn't just die on board. But now he's giving Cydonia bow charges. Cydonia is free to just start launching damage at his face, and che0nsu doesn't have the armor up hero power anymore. He's going to be taking a lot of heat, and there's still a freezing trap out there stopping this Brawling Berserker from getting any work done.
Yep. Kindly Grandmother, not a strong draw, though. It is starting some pressure here, but Cydonia's foregone the Houndmaster package to begin with. It is much more focused around pushing damage. And here, he's holding on to the bow because he feels he may need to still fight for board control at some point.
Okay, yeah, I mean, he does have a very mid-rangey list. There are Savannah High Mains, there is a Tundra Rhino, Infested Wolves, and Ragnaros the Firelord in the list.
That Curator is stopping the buck. Cydonia does not have a way through this right now.
Savannah High Main is a pretty big pickup for this situation.
That's about as big as it gets.
That's a huge draw, and it's going to be able to contest that Curator on board, which is very impactful.
See Cydonia take a deep breath right there, like, okay, this is the last piece. Like, if the Savannah High Maid is not a catalyst to the game, his championship run will come to an end.
Yeah, he's on his last life.
It's going to be the freezing trap rocked, and che0nsu's hand is gas.
Oh, yeah. He's got fuel for days. While on the other side of things, Cydonia doesn't have very many cards. All of his value is kind of just invested in this Eaglehorn bow at this point, and he can only attack with
taunts in the way.
Yeah, and he can only attack with the bow once per turn, so it's going to take so long to get work done and expend so much life.
And che0nsu going to activate Cat Trick to weaken this Savannah High Main.
Huh.
That is really interesting to me. This is a multi-turn plan here.
This is something that's cooking. He gives his opponent a 4-2 with charge, basically, to give himself a 2-2 and save 1 mana on the next turn.
The Eaglehorn bow charge is not as relevant here
as the 4-2 with charge.
It's taking a long time for Cydonia to activate those charges. So che0nsu has sacrificed the idea of this game going longer than 4 turns, I think.
He wants to just rush him down, I guess, so that Cydonia can't get the value out of the bow unlocked.
Or use the Savannah High Maid to leverage for the long game. I think he's trying to force Cydonia on his terms.
Sure, he's trying to turn it into a rush game instead. But this unlocks Cydonia to be able to play the Cat Trick.
Does he want to play it, though? See, if he holds it in hand, this could represent kill command.
I think che0nsu thought that Cat Trick was a Ragnaros. And I think that's why he made the play in the way he did, to add that extra 2-2 to lower the value of Rag here. Because otherwise,
kill command would have been played. Quick shot would have been played. Everything would have been played.
Everything except Cat Trick and Rag would have been played. And if Rag comes down there and there's no 2-2, that's a 50-50 to clear the 4-6. So he was trying to play.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
He just spots everything.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't work out for him here, but if that was Rag, then that would have been, he would have needed to make that play. Otherwise, if that 4-6 gets shot by Rag, he just loses.
Yeah.
And he is able to push through some extra damage this way as well. He's connecting for an extra 2 now.
Yep.
The 4-2 wasn't actually beneficial for Cydonia to be able to clear anything with.
You know, here's the other thing too. That could still be a second freezing trap if I'm recalling correctly.
Sure.
So that throws the math off a little bit more. And even in that case, that means the 2-2 can offset the freezing trap. So even if it is a freezing trap that he hadn't played yet, che0nsu just hedged the bets the whole step of the way.
So yeah, that activating Cat Trick looked a little weird, but I think it was right.
Yeah. Strong plan. Oh no!
A whiff.
That's the worst draw in the deck.
And he really needed something here. That 9-9 is poised to connect. He needed to hit Rag. He needed to hit kill command. Anything big and...
I wonder.
I don't know how he wins.
Cydonia just used all of his cards early on, banking on the fact that he could put a lot of value in the bow and be able to hit some of these big minions that he's put into the deck. And he just, one Savannah High Main was all of the top end he was able to find, and it hasn't been enough yet.
I mean, step 1 is chewing through the Curator.
Sure.
Can he race this ever? what draws can win him the game here? He's setting che0nsu down to 8. Burn can still win him the game.
Oh yeah, any of the burn spells can win him the game.
che0nsu needs... He has lethal though, right? With the Blackwood Corruptor, 9, 10...
That's only 12.
And he knows it's not freezing trap.
Oh, he's got the ping as well.
He's got the ping as well. And now War X. So that's going to do it. che0nsu.
One turn before he was about to die, is able to take down Cydonia.
Wow, what an unbelievable set. You got to give a round of applause for these guys. They played their hearts out of this one. Cydonia making great reads, not the situations to get there. che0nsu making fantastic reads as well. Just one step ahead, it seemed, every single time.
Yeah, really impressive play from both of these guys. Really fantastic key moments there in a lot of those games that kind of just swung the tide from one player to the other, which is, you know, the coolest thing to see in Hearthstone when there's that dramatic shift when a player makes a huge play.
Yep. che0nsu, we got some good matchups in here as well with the way that the decks panned out, but strong builds from both players. I mean, what a set. And there you can see che0nsu moving on to the top 4 at this point. He's joining Jason Joe and Pavel in this one. One more match left to decide our top 4, Dr. Hippie versus Hot Meowth. But you called it. che0nsu was your pick at the start of this, it seemed, or Jason Joe rather. We talked a lot about che0nsu.
Oh yeah. It was between those two for my picks. You know, they both had really impressive performances in opening week, and there they are.
Certainly are. Sprodan standing by with an interview with the winner.
che0nsu, congratulations, you made it to the semifinal. Now, I did hear that you were satisfied just getting to the top 8. You didn't really care about winning past that. But now that you're through to the top 4, have your goals changed at all?
네, che0nsu 선수 일단 준결승에 올라가신 거 축하드리고요. 8강에 갔을 때 본인이 만족한다는 인터뷰를 하셨는데 이제 4강에 올라가셨는데 그 인터뷰가 어느 정도 바뀌었나요?
사실 8강에만 만족하려고 했는데 운이 좋네요, 계속. 그래서 결승까지는 한번 가보려고요.
I was going to be satisfied at top 8, but I guess I'm lucky, and I try to see if I can make it to the top.
You are the second Korean player to come to a semifinals, matching che0nsu's performance in 2014. Is there a sense of pride also representing Korea? There's a lot of people cheering for you also to support the Korean movement.
네, 지금 준결승에 올라온 한국인 중에 2번째가 되셨는데요. 어떻게 한국인으로서 이렇게 자부심이 느껴지시나요?
뭐 한국인으로서 자부심이 그렇게 느껴지진 않는데 모르겠어요.
I don't feel particularly proud as a Korean, but I just don't know.
All right, well, che0nsu is able to take it yet again and able to go to the top 4. Congratulations.